On Tuesday, the House Select Committee investigating the January 6th Capitol riots played audio of former President Donald Trump's lawyers that were attempting to pressure lawmakers into overturning the 2020 election. Take a look.
Mr. Speaker, this is Rudy Giuliani and Jenna Ellis. We're calling you together because we'd like to discuss, obviously, the election.
Hello, Mr. Speaker. This is Jenna Ellis, and I'm here with Mayor Giuliani.
Hey, Brian, it's Rudy. I really have something important to call to your attention that I think really changes things. I understand that you don't want to talk to me now. But I just want to bring some facts to your attention and talk to you as a fellow Republican.
So this video is part of testimony showing part of the pressure campaign the Trump administration, despite knowing that, for one, they lost the election, and secondly, knowing that this could lead to violence against these officials, they did this pressure campaign anyway. Now, before I get into that, I just want to bring up a quick nonsense point. When I was listening to that, Rudy Giuliani reminded me of a used car salesman. Or it better yet, when he says something like, I really have something important to call to your attention. We've been trying to reach you about your car's extended warranty for some time now. No, but you can't escape those calls. But look, Rudy Giuliani would absolutely do that, by the way. Seems like the kind of guy who would run a shady used car lot or do those weird spam calls. But you understand, like Trump, he hires the best people, the greatest people, the tremendous people. Nonsense point aside, I've got more details into this because it gets better. It was revealed recently through Josh Roselman, investigative counsel, during this hearing that Brian Cutler, the Speaker of the Pennsylvania House of Representatives, was receiving these daily voicemails from Trump's lawyers in the last week of November. Now, that's in relation to how Pennsylvania's votes turned out in the general election. So now it got so bad, so many of these spam calls, that Cutler had to tell him to cut it out. Hey, please stop calling me. Rudy, please stop. Like, we're done with this. Okay? Please. Like, I don't want you to call me anymore. Please don't call me anymore. And Rudy's response, he kept calling. He kept calling. He would not stop. Would not stop. Now, eventually, he had to, but then we find out the harassment had only just begun. Because in December, Steve Bannon, and this was also presented as evidence here, he had announced, Steve Bannon, a protest to take place outside of Cutler's home and district office. Now, look, I'm okay with protests. Yes, I'm even okay with protests outside people's homes, like in the case of Supreme Court justices, right? But it's got to be peaceful, and it's got to be respectful, right? You can't just be there at all hours of the night. You can't be violent. You can't destroy property. You can't make threats. And so, well, let me show you this video here. This is from Cutler about what happened afterwards, after Steve Bannon had called for that. Take a look.
We're getting on the road and we're going down to Cutler. We're going to start going to offices, and if we have to, we're going to go to homes, and we're going to let them know what we think about them.
There were multiple protests. I actually don't remember the exact number. There was at least 3, I think, outside either my district office or my home. And you're correct, my son, my then 15-year-old son, was home by himself for the first one. All of my personal information was doxed online. It was my personal email, my personal cell phone, my home phone number. In fact, we had to disconnect our home phone for about 3 days because it would ring all hours of the night and would fill up with messages.
Brian Cutler, we're outside.
We are outside. So, look, that right there, that's not good. That's pretty bad. Now, here's the thing. All the evidence so far, pretty damning. Because what we know is that Trump knew that he lost. His advisors knew that he lost. They told him, you lost. William Barr called all the allegations of voter fraud. Now, here's what he said about that.
Bullshit.
And so, yeah. And by the way, William Barr was a Donald Trump toady. But even he says, look, I can't sell this without any sort of credible evidence to prove mass voter fraud. And right now, we have nothing. Even Ivanka Trump, she's like, look, I didn't see any voter fraud. Because there wasn't. Now, of course, Donald Trump then threw his own daughter under the bus. She wasn't paying attention. That's what it was. So much fraud here, but she wasn't even there. She was just a coffee girl. Barely know her. Ridiculous, right? But look, everything that they purported to have when it comes to their so-called evidence, right, is based on faulty or intentionally misleading analysis or straight up lies. Now, I've got one more clip about Giuliani, right, where he has admitted that he had no evidence to present. So now, this was an interview, testimony from Speaker of the House from Arizona, Rusty Bowers. So he's testifying under oath. And he's recounting some of the conversations that he had with Giuliani, one previously, where Giuliani, he's like, I got all this evidence. And so Bauer says, okay, I want to see it. Let's see some names. You have names. He says, yes, I have names. I have all this information that you're asking for. And he says, well, can I see it? Giuliani says, yes. And then what happened? Well, he never got to see it because Rudy never sent it. And now I'm going to show you here this video of Bowers talking about, again, their so-called evidence.
At some point, did one of them make a comment that they didn't have evidence, but they had a lot of theories?
That was Mr. Giuliani.
And what exactly did he say, and how that come up?
My recollection, he said, we've got lots of theories, we just don't have the evidence. And I don't know if that was a gaffe, or maybe he didn't think through what he said, but both myself and others in my group, the three in my group and my council, both remembered that specifically, and afterwards we kind of laughed about it.
Now, we kind of laughed about it. I mean, it was so absolutely ridiculous. Yeah, ridiculous. And yet, you have a majority of Republican voters who still believe in it. I mean, before I said that I had the evidence, and I said I was going to give you the evidence, and it turns out I don't actually have the evidence, but I guess I have a lot of theories. Well, theories are not evidence. I mean, again, you cannot send something that you don't have. And that's why, of course, he never sent them the evidence. Now, following all this, Trump then called Bowers a rhino in a phone call. After Bowers had said, look, I support you. I did everything I could to help you win. I believed in you, all that stuff, but I'm not going to do anything illegal for you. I'm just not. It's not going to happen. And so Trump says, oh, rhino, you're not going to help me steal the election. You're a rhino. Terrible. The baby disaster. By the way, he also had a pressure campaign. You had days later, John Eastman, another Trump lawyer, calling and pressuring Bowers over and over again to decertify the election in that state. And so that's it. Another person involved with that effort was Representative Andy Biggs, who also called him on the morning of January 6th, asking him to sign a letter that would decertify Arizona's electors. Now, that, of course, ties into the plan to send fake electors that were not the actual electors, people that had already sent in paperwork to the National Archives. I know we haven't. Sometimes with the official state seal on it, these fake electors that would basically disenfranchise enough Biden voters for Trump to claim that he won the election. That's it. So all of this was a very large organized pressure campaign to get the states to disenfranchise certain voters and replace those real the real electors with fake ones that were not actually going to honor the real results of the election. And we're going to only vote for Donald Trump. There's a word for that. It ain't democracy.